Hello there, everybody, and welcome back to another predictions and speculation for The Bad Batch Season 2. We are talking about Episode 5, Entombed, which will be coming out next Wednesday on Disney+. We're excited to get into our thoughts on what might happen in the next episode of The Bad Batch, but before we do so, please hit that like button down below. Subscribe to our channel for continued Star Wars content. Like I've been mentioning in every video this year, there are so many Star Wars things coming out this year for the next 4 months, especially, but then on into the future. We're going to be talking about all of it here on the channel. So if you're interested in Star Wars at all and want to see any coverage of all these TV shows and video games, movies, and comic books, and all this stuff coming out, there's so much to talk about. We will be diving into everything related to Star Wars, The High Republic, Jedi Survivor, The Mandalorian Season 3. All of it will be covered on Star Wars Lads. Subscribing is the best way to show your support and make sure that we are able to do all this stuff for you guys and give you guys the best, biggest content we possibly can here on the channel. Your subscriptions are what it makes us able to do that. If you haven't yet, comment below. Let us know what you think will happen in The Bad Batch Episode 5, Entombed, Season 2, Episode 5, Entombed. This will be an interesting episode to talk about here because Episode 4 really didn't progress the narrative too much. So if you haven't checked out our review of Episode 4, faster. We did post that on Wednesday as well. Our latest Bad Batch reviews always drop Wednesday mornings, day of release. So let's get into the Bad Batch Episode 5 Entombed predictions and speculation. Like I mentioned, Faster didn't really add much to the narrative, but one of the key narrative pieces it did give us is that the Bad Batch are split up right now. Three of them are together. Omega, Tech, Wrecker are all with Sid right now. And they had their little mission with the racing, and we don't know what's going on with Hunter and Echo. Omega mentions in passing that they're off on a mission together, and I kind of figured they would show back up by the end of this episode, but they don't. So I think that's one of the biggest clues we could get towards what happens next week. Sanak, do you have any ideas what you think Entombed might mean? Where do you think Echo and Hunter are? And any other thoughts on where the show might be going for episode 5?
Yeah, it was pretty curious that we didn't even see a glimpse of them, like, team up or go back to Ord Mantell and they're like, oh, yeah, the mission was fine. How did your day go or whatever? And then have like a classic, like, oh, Tech killed it. And it's like, oh, yeah, classic Tech quit or something. It wasn't like that. And that could maybe mean that we do see what happened because I know Omega and Sid, I think Sid mentions it as like, oh, it's not any serious mission. It's like a Nerf nuggets or something, right? Like they're not doing anything crazy. So it seems like they're just doing some shipping and trading stuff of that nature. But I could always see that be an excuse for Echo, especially this season, to push like, hey, we can do something here. We can connect with Rex. We can check out what's going on with a lot of these things in the galaxy that have been calling to us. Oh, do you hear about Cody going AWOL or something, right? Like this could be an episode to really pick up on the strands of stuff that's happening in the Empire storyline. I could also just very much see it just be, hey, we're all back together and then we split off again. That'd be pretty interesting too to leave behind in Omega and all that. I think that would also let us have the sort of gravitas that we felt in episode 3 where it was Crosshair, Cody, dealing with like a lot of the political ramifications and the dark truths of war and the cleanup of a war. Like I could see them go for a different tonal shift here and they should ditch Wrecker and Tech and Sid and everyone else because all the kitty stuff is done. Let's get back into something that has a little bit more intrigue and whatnot. Entombed, Entombed. It's a pretty interesting title because just because this show was supposed to come out, sometime in 2022, got rescheduled, shuffled around a lot. It would be pretty interesting if we connect to Rebels, to connect to Kenobi, and we get to see the Jedi or find a Jedi that's been put into like that amber housing of some sorts. We don't even really understand, like, are they fully dead? Is there something you can do to save them? Like, what exactly do they do when they're put into this orange crystalline structure or whatever? So I think that would be pretty interesting to see. We could go for a little bit more of the horror of that sort of thing. I think it could also connect well if even if it's not related to that stuff, it could connect well with Echo because Echo was in his own tomb for a very long time. He was not conscious of what he was doing. He was basically just a code that was filtering out, being their battle computer and whatnot for a lot of the Techno Union and Separatist droids. So maybe we get to see something that reminds him of that trauma that he hasn't really fully cleared through. I don't think he hasn't even had time to talk about his past as an ARC trooper and all. I've asked about fives, especially with AZ5 around. So maybe this could be a way for him to deal with that. And then as he works through it, maybe that only further convinces him of that growing conscious that he's had of like, hey, we have to do something about the galaxy, about our fellow clone troopers. It'd be very cool. I could also see them again going back to if the idea of like we get to see what they were doing while faster was happening, finishing their mission early and maybe doing something with Rex immediately, and Rex sends them on a mission pro bono, essentially, that they're willing to do it. Yeah, and maybe they are entombed, maybe they do deal with like, okay, what happens to our clones once we're done, the ramification of like we are being phased out, we are being killed off. What happens when we don't exist as a part of the galaxy? And we're so short lived in the galaxy. And I think that could be a very philosophical episode too, if they go that route.
Yeah, I definitely think we were trying to think of all the philosophical meanings of Faster last week, and it ended up just being a racing episode. I'm going to say Entombed, some point, the Bad Batch, whether it's just Echo and Hunter or it's the entire group, I think they're going to get buried under something and they're going to have to find their way out. Yeah, that's the insightful analysis you're looking for on Star Wars Lads for me, but that's what I'm going to give you because I feel like it's probably most accurate. They are going to get trapped. I do think it's going to be something like that, though. I think we are going to see what Hunter and Echo are doing because it's mentioned so heavily in this episode that, like, they're just off on this easy little run, and then Mega calls it a mission, and Tech's like, it's not really a mission. But I think we're going to see that it might actually have been a mission or turned into something big. Maybe they stumbled across a lead that led them to something else. Rex is a great shout. I think that's a strong possibility that they're doing something. They finish. Gets in touch, and he's like, we need you to do something. Echo's like, I need to help Rex. I need to get involved in the fight. I want to be there. Hunter and Echo have been paired as kind of opposing forces already here, not antagonistic by any way, but their ideas for the group are definitely clashing. And I think this would be a good episode to try to at least align them through a common purpose, which is Rex, and both have loyalties to that character. I'd love to see that play out. I'd love to see some more fallout from whatever Cody was doing, whether that's part of this mission or not. Cody's desertion. Again, I'll mention it again. Gungi from every single predictions video we've given so far. I mean, it's just to me, I'm surprised that we keep seeing him in posters and trailers, and he's not in this show yet. Maybe Rex sends them on a mission for Ahsoka to find Gungi, maybe for the path that we see from Obi-Wan Kenobi. There are a lot of different connections we can have here, and ultimately the buildup of these former Republic loyalists turned into rebels, an early stage of rebellion, was given a lot more adaptation than we originally thought in Obi-Wan Kenobi. And now we're left here with a bunch of different strands from Obi-Wan, from Rebels, and from Bad Batch. And so it would be nice to see a lot of the more recent storytelling around this time period align with the Bad Batch. Not necessarily saying Entombed's going to be that episode, but it could be a little episode where they go to try to save Gungi and they get buried and they got to fight their way out and try to escape. I don't think this episode will necessarily have some big impact on the overall narrative of the season. I think we will probably wait till episode 6 to really get that meaty episode that's going to lead into the 2-part mid-season episode. But I think that's kind of the direction we're going. I think safest bet, the Bad Batch are getting buried by something, and they're going to have to find their way out. Let's talk about characters we haven't talked about yet, though, and those are the Imperial characters, Crosshair and Rampart. They did not make an appearance in Faster. Sanak, do you think they might show back up in episode 5 in any capacity?
Possibly. We've already seen the effects of like orbital bombardment in the premiere for for season 2. So maybe we get to see Crosshair and all these guys already. They've already had their almost entombing experience with Topeka City being destroyed and them with it. I could see it being something if you're gonna bring Crosshair Hat back, if he's in a situation where the Empire does something, even if it's on purpose or not, that could trigger something in him that could see like I've already been abused by the Empire. I've had to take 32 rotations just to get off of Camino. Now they're willing to throw me out again, and maybe that's where we have him split off from the Empire because I do not see him lasting as long, like a full season's worth with the Empire. I think he's already had a lot to do with the Empire between season 1 and 2, with the things that he's done in all of season 1. Essentially, he's very pro Imperial from the start. Once this chip is sort of affecting him, I think this could be an episode that pushes him. Like a lot of people online were showing, like comparing the scene of like Callus sitting after he's finally rescued by the Imperials in his room, and Crosshair was very much in a similar position, empty, alone, barren. And I think maybe this could be him not having necessarily the quiet leap that Callus had to working with the rebellion, but here he could have like something that Crosshair has something that makes him crack and he diverges completely. Because in my mind, I would love to see his character not be part of the Bad Batch and all the wreck stuff and whatever, and not be part of the Imperials, but a wild card. I think maybe that's because I like what came out of Cyril Karn in Andor, and I'm looking forward to what's going to happen in season 2 with him. But I think Crosshair, with his skills, with his grudges, with his things that he's letting go with the Bad Batch, he could be a fascinating wild card for every party. So
Yeah, it would be really sweet to see him play that role. I think next episode in particular, I think is going to be Bad Batch centric. I don't know if Crosshair shows up in this one. I think we'll save Crosshair for episode 6 and then maybe lead back in with that Imperial stuff from 6 into the 7 and 8 two-part episodes. But I do think it would be nice, at least in the vein of episode 2 of this season, to have some type of tag at the end of this episode for whatever the consequences of the mission that the Bad Batch are a part of. It would be nice that Crosshair or Rampart or somebody from the Imperial side from our main antagonists are now at least mentioned in this. And we might have Imperial characters be the bad guys of this. We might have the TK troopers be some of the people that the Bad Batch are fighting in this episode. We can't discount the Imperial element, but I would like to see at least Rampart or Crosshair, or I mean, I guess if somebody higher up than them too, we could see a Tarkin or somebody. But I'd like to see somebody big from the Imperial side at least make a little tag at the end of this episode that kind of pushes this one and faster back into the main storyline, because I think this one will be a little bit of an offshoot as well, episode 5. So those are our thoughts on the Bad Batch episode 5, Entombed. Thank you so much for watching. Again, if you haven't let us know down below, let us know what you think might happen in Entombed. This is going to be an interesting episode. Following up faster, we'll see which type of episodes does it align with. Does it align with the first 3, which were more narrative driven and overall narrative driven for the Bad Batch's through line story? Or will it be another little side adventure to a B episode to Faster's A episode on the two-sided coin type of thing? Let us know what you think down in the comments below. If you haven't yet, like the video and subscribe to our channel. Again, the best way to show your support for our channel is to subscribe. So if you are watching this video and you haven't subscribed, please do so. We're going to give you guys a ton of content here in the future, from Jedi Survivor and video game playthroughs. We're doing Jedi Fallen Order right now on Friday. So today, if you're watching this video, make sure you're tuning in to our Jedi Fallen Order live streams. It will be tonight, and we do answer your questions live. So if you want to just watch for the Q&As, that's the most fun part. We love interacting with you guys and putting out our responses to your questions. So make sure you're tuning in for that as well. But we will be covering The Mandalorian, Jedi Survivor, The Bad Batch, The High Republic, all of the stuff that's coming here in the future. You're going to want to stick around with Star Wars Lads for all of it. So thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.